Hello everybody and welcome to probably the most important session of the conference, if I do say so myself. I'm really happy to be able to host this session because all of the things that we've been discussing, everything that we work on, all of the things that we spend our time doing, it's only really going to be sustained if we've got air that we can breathe, if we've got water that we can drink and food that we can eat. And so taking care of our environment, the environment that works for human life, is really important. And that's what we're going to talk about here today and how that relates to the music industry with a few very esteemed individuals here. And we're also joined by Lyke online as well, who will be popping up on our screens very soon, I'm sure. So just before we get started, let you know who I am. I'm Claire O'Neill from A Greener Future, and we started working in sustainability through festivals in the beginning, then onto arenas, tours, lots of different types of events over the last 20 years. And we've seen the subject be very high profile, very distant, very underground. It ebbs and flows, but it's always ever present and utterly crucial. In the meantime, we've seen that there's been a big pushback on the oil sector, move towards renewable energy, and what's happening as a result of that decline in demand for future energy is there's a big push of the oil industry into plastics as an opportunity for continuing to have sales of oil. And as we all know, plastics pollution has become a significant problem for us and many other species as well. So that's one of the topics that we're going to cover today, thanks to the great work that Exit Festival and Remedies have been doing together. So to begin, I'm going to get each of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then throughout the session we're going to take a look at the work of Exit, of Boom Festival, Green Deal Circular Festivals, which is led from the Netherlands, and Lyke will be giving us information about that, and the amazing Remedies project, and how we can all work together, but also with other sectors and industries, governments and other institutions to try and turn the dial and make the things that we do more sustainable. So if I can hand over first to Artur, can you give us a brief introduction of yourself and what you do?
Hello everyone, my name is Artur, I'm from Portugal. I'm the co-managing director of the Boom Festival. We've been going on since '97. We are a 40,000 people, 169 countries event with 21 stages, big focus on sustainability. And we are also an independent festival. We don't accept any kind of sponsorship. We don't have any kind of state funding as well. And besides doing the festival, we also have a huge regenerative work being done in the farm where we do our festival. So it's not only the festival, it's a lot about how can we use the events to make an impact on the land, but also on the communities around.
Thank you. And Ida?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ida Siljanović, program manager from Foundation Exit. And Foundation Exit is actually one of the organizers of the Exit Festival. I'm one of the also initiator of the Green Exit initiative, and I'm glad that we are all here to witness the first edition of this meeting two initiatives together, which is Bridge and Green Exit, where we're going to talk about how we can actually greening our festivals together and get some good ideas and practices.
Nice. And Uroš?
Okay, hello. I'm Uroš Novak. I'm from Slovenia. I coordinate the project Remedies. You will hear more later. I'm a scientist by profession, but my background in the recent years is also in entrepreneurship, and also I have a small farm in Slovenia, so I'm very connected to nature, so my work is also my passion. So
Nice.
Happy to be here.
What did you make of the plant songs? You're connected to nature in another way.
It's not just plant, it's also animals and so on, but it's relaxing, so it's not this noise that you have in the cities, but it's quite relaxing.
Nice. And Lyke, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. If you want to introduce yourself, we can see you on the screen.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm Lyke from Amsterdam today. I'm from Green Events and in the program team of the Green Deal Circular Festivals. and working in sustainability and events already for 20 years.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So, Ida, I'm going to start with you if I can. Can you give us a bit of background about what Green Exit is and what you're working on at the moment with that?
This initiative came to life in 21, actually after the pandemic, and we wanted to basically do some activities and made more awareness with our audience and our partners to see what we can do, how we can green. And in 22, joining Green Deal Circle festivals in Amsterdam during the ADA Green, we learned so much how we can do this, and one of the main activity that we started and is still going on, it's still growing, is responsibly collecting the packaging from at the festival, during the festival. We started with the partners Heineken and local private waste management companies, as well as the communal also companies that grew into more partnership, and we also have now the mobile system that we're doing. We started last year, which is we have promoters with rucksacks and mobile POS systems where they can collect. People can actually give their empty packaging, and if you collect, and you're collecting voucher for each package you provide, you get a voucher, and for a certain number of vouchers you get a free, like a free drink or something like that. So this activity really helped much, and in getting this awareness built during the Exit Festival. Also last year we did the solar panel systems for the Exit camp, for the water heating, and for the reception, part of the reception area. That was an interesting project done 30 days before the festival, like originally made a solar panel in the shape of the guitar, and 2 water heaters in the shape of the vinyl record. So we have this, so it was something quite interesting and originally done for Exit. And also what we learn is when we realize besides the collaboration with the government and different institutions, we try to see what are other ways we can get some of the solutions for the festivals. And of course, you don't have funds for that. And we know that sustainable solutions are not one of the cheapest ones, and sometimes it's more complicated to get them in some parts of the Europe, of the world. So we decided, and we actually got invited first to join the Remedies project that we're going to talk about, and we find out that through joining the different innovative projects that will create or are creating some sustainable solutions, are actually good for the festivals and also for the science, for the innovations. And I'm sure we're going to develop a bit further with Uroš.
So it's like an innovative testing ground.
Exactly. And so we are happy to be here, to be part of the Bridge conference, and to have those, as I said earlier, 2 initiatives joining together, Bridge to Green Exit. And we all discuss and hear about different ideas, experiences, and what we can do, because we can only do this together, saving.
I definitely want one of those guitar-shaped solar water heaters for my house.
Okay.
And Uroš, you we mentioned there the Remedies. So how did you come to connect with Exit, and can you tell us a bit about that project?
Remedies is an EU mission project for restoration of oceans and waters. It started in 2022. It has 23 partners and a demo site. One of the demo sites is also Exit Festival. At the beginning it was in Montenegro, but now we switched to to here, to UMAC. So the connection to Exit is more or less you're looking, as a business. So when you're coordinating a project, it's not that you're a scientist, you're more like a manager. So you have goals to do, goals to achieve, and you also have to measure the impact. And impact is through festivals and so on, and I congratulate Exit for the courage to join, because these changes are something that maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, no one will even admit to want to try, but now everything goes in that direction. This helps, also to the, because of the, plastic pollution, people see the problem, which for us is easier, and also results are more visible. However, this I always say it's like every step is important, even the small one. And yeah, so it's with Exit, it's I think 2 companies and one institute that are working on the solutions. So it's not that just Exit. So it's like a huge effort, from Croatia, Spain, Greece, and so on. And also, we also introduce our zero-waste cosmetics, but I'll talk about it later.
Okay. And just on those, so you've got 4 companies and an institute. What are the kind of companies that are involved, and what?
This is just involved for the Exit demo.
Okay.
So it's like, it's on the biomaterial side. So we're looking about the prevention. So we're not telling people, recycle or something, because at the festival, it's not their job. So we are basically remove the, plastic, single-use plastic with reusable cups, biodegradable, and so on. So, and the ownership of these cups will be Exit. So, and we also will have the washing container there. The water will be restored. So basically, everything is in place. If now the calculation are done on the impact, life cycle assessment, and so on. But Exit will tell at the end, or the audience, or the people, if this is something that they want to continue. So
And so when you talk about impacts, you're looking at not only the impact of how much plastic you've avoided on the event, but also the impact on behavior or people's engagement. So what are the metrics that you're looking at there?
Yes, one of the is reduce plastic waste and then the pollution, but most important also is the carbon footprint, for example, and also that you raise awareness of the people, because this is why I said you need the courage to do this step, because it's their decision to invite us. It cannot be opposite. So we are happy to working with them, but still there's always something that you have to adjust. And I think people now, because they're listening to it, but sometimes I think that they're expecting the solutions like that to be like that. It takes some time. Still have to make the adjustment, because the whole infrastructure. In multiple meetings with the teams, on the festivals and so on, I understand a little bit of background. So it's not like, we can do it like today, tomorrow. No, it's a whole year planning and so on. So I'm happy that this will be achieved next year at one of the big festivals here.
So you're becoming adept in festival operations and planning, as well as being a scientist now.
I enjoy it. It's something that I go out to my workspace, and also then I can just bring my knowledge to it, and I learn from them how to operate. This is
Ida?
Yeah, that's this multi-sectoral thing that we actually discussed earlier, that meeting the science with the event and festival industry. And it's basically creating, this experience will help us maybe to do the study about this, and help the other event industry organizers to how to do this change. Some festivals already have reusable cups, for example. We're talking about the cups. Some don't. But what do you need to do, and in order to implement the system at the festival?
Absolutely. And I know I'm going to come to you in a bit, Artur, about, I know that you've done some great collaborations with different institutions as well, for instance, on water systems. But just before that, Lyke, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to ask you to describe the Green Deal Circular Festivals and what that association is, like how it works. But also I know that you've got a lot of experience in these collaborative processes, for instance, with collaboration with Innofest and others. So if there's anything you want to comment on what you've heard, feel free to go free range.
Thank you. Yes, so we started the Circular Festivals initiative in 2019. It was after another Green Deal. It was called the Waste Free Festivals. And that was really in the Netherlands, and this one is international. So 52 festivals are committed to become circular. Of course, the Corona period was in between there. So that made it a little bit harder. And I think if you're interested, please go to this website, because it's a model on 5 different themes, how to become circular. And I think a lot of people think with circularity about materials, but circularity is in all this, so also in water, mobility, energy. And I think it's really important to realize it's also about not polluting and not bringing more things into the system which cannot be like taken by the world, by the ecosystems. So, for example, the plastic is also, it's not only about material, but also about not having the material in our ecosystems. Yeah, so this is the last year, and we're gonna celebrate it at Ida Green, the last, this last coming together. Yeah.
Excellent. And the GDCF model, it's been something that's worked on by lots of different organisations around Europe over the years, and also has been contributed to by best practice from various festivals. At A Greener Future, we've been assessing festivals over the last 20 years, and we're integrating the learnings from this model into that certification model as well. It's a really great tool. And I know that, so Artur, you've dealt with both the AGF model as well as GDCF. I want to ask you so many things. Let's start here.
And I think it's good to mention, because I just said it's the last year, but we recently, like 2 weeks ago, we did an application for an EU funding with a great consortium of players. So also with a Boom Festival among them. And the goal is to really bring the whole circular festival model further across Europe.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that more because we will talk about the EU funding integration as well. So, but just prior to that, it would be good to know, Artur, your experience on, for instance, using these models, but also a bit of insight into, well, I mean, where would you even start? What Boom has been working towards on sustainability?
Well, I mean, we need to start always with the user, which is a human being, and in which way the human being relates in a festival, but especially in a festival that is done outdoors, in a remote location, in a green field, let's say. So for sure, besides we delivering a great show, we need to deliver like the physiological, looking at the Maslow pyramid kind of human needs. We need to look at the physiological needs and the needs of shelter and this kind of systems. And that's why we've been addressing sustainability on that level, which is to try to create solutions that can be extrapolated to society, to try to create solutions that can please the experience of the audience that will go to our festival, but at the same time to create a regenerative and a positive impact in the land that we are doing. From that on, we developed a paradigm, and this paradigm is based on different variables: energy, water, air, soil, and so on, art, packaging, waste as resource, I mean, many of them. And then we look at all of these variables in an interdependent way, so that we can address all these things on a long-term approach and not just focusing on one single project, which is, for instance, we've been talking about reusable cups or recycling or others. Everything has to be done on a systemic approach, and that's what we've been doing. In our case specifically, since we are doing our event in a remote location in a beautiful farm, we have to deal with the ecosystem. And so we have three different kinds of footprint: the ecological footprint, the water footprint, and the carbon footprint. With the carbon footprint, this year we are looking at the blue carbon approach, which is we will try to offset last year and this year with a partnership with Ocean Alive organization that they do this work of regenerating sea prairies close to Portugal, and we are doing also a project with the river streams that we have around the boomland, so that we can regenerate all these river streams, because this is a great way to offset the impact. Because we are an international festival, we believe in sustainability, but of course there is an impact of the travels. But at the same time, people will take a message and they will do their own change in their communities. And also, the other kind of impact for us, very important, is the water. This year was very abnormal in Portugal because it has been raining like...
Oh, really? I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, it was really nice. We've been not used to this because we've been in systemic drought for the last 10 years. And so water is a precious element, an element that is scarce. And so we've been doing different systems to have a circularity on water. So we have 2 water treatment stations that are done with plants. They are biological filtered, and we use some enzymes and other kind of systems. We've been working with some universities to assess the quality, so that then we can bring back the water into the festival, into the regenerative way. So we try to close this loop. And the final one is the ecological footprint. For us, it's quite important to put more biodiversity in the place where we do the festival. I mean, you've been there, it's beautiful. And the more biodiversity we create, the more water retention, the more the soil is full of life, the more the people that will attend the festival is comfortable. And so this has been super nice, because only in the last 10 years we introduced more than 1,000 trees, and we are very careful about the amount of trees we put, because we want to irrigate them, more than just create these communication campaigns of 1 million trees and then nobody cares about 1 million trees. And we introduced more than 200 species of shrubs, because they are very important for the ecosystem as well. So we are using the energy of humans, 40,000 people together, to try to create an impact. That's something that can be shown to society as well.
I mean, I can say firsthand, I first went to Boom Festival 21 years ago, wow, in 2004, when I was 21, actually, and it had such an impact on me. I think partly because it's such a hot place, and you become very aware of your use of water, of your access to energy, but the communications, even back then, were so clear about what happens with the compost, what happens with the water, what happens with the food, and it really deeply resonated. And I think that utilizing the event spaces as a way to connect with people, like how we saw with the plants, for instance, and connected with the plants next door just now. This is our opportunity to get people out of the kind of boxes and squares that we're living in, where we're completely disconnected. So this is also something that's, I suppose communication is a big element of it as well. And Ida, you talked about the work that you're doing with Green Exit, and the reception has been really good. You're offering rewards to people. What's the feedback been like from the audience?
I would just say, for example, from this activity that we're doing for past 4 years, last year we collected responsibly 4 times more packaging than previous year. And I think this is a great success. It's a small step, but it's a step further. You know, we need to look, and we're growing every year. So this year I expect to be even more.
And have you got those solutions, and you may be aware of this as well, once you've actually collected up the items, is there a place for them to go that they can be dealt with?
Yes, that's our work in communication with the partners that are private waste management, but also the communal services of the city of Novi Sad. We are communicating with them every year, and making sure that we know where this waste, I'm talking mostly about the plastic, where it ends up.
Yeah.
not in a sea, not on a landfill.
And we've had in the UK certainly, and I know Lyke will have experienced this in other countries as well, when we've moved to things like bioplastic, for example, or compostables, it's trying to connect the end system with what's happening on site as well, which is where the collaborations are so important. So, for example, there's only a couple of plants in the UK that can process compostable waste. So if we have compostable serveware, it normally gets incinerated for energy at best, unless you have this very specific measure to take it elsewhere. And so can you give examples of collaborations that you've had with broader industries or other institutions in order to join these dots together when you found you could only go so far as a festival?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've been trying to do in the festival is to have, let's say, a laboratorial approach into these ecological systems with the toilets, with the water and others. And sometimes the regulations and the laws, they are not up to the innovation in terms of sustainability in events. And the possibility to work universities has been very instrumental for us. So every kind of system, like the new models of compost toilets, the enzymes we use on the plant systems, the kind of trees that we plant in our land, the analysis on the soil, the way that we approach all the waste management through the recycling, etc. We have a close connection with, in this case, with the University of Castelo Branco, which is close to us. And they are very advanced in terms of giving us some assessment and also to publish some papers based on it, working with students. And some teachers, they give us based on the analysis, they always give us some reports on this. And for the regulatory system, this has been very important because when we are doing a festival outdoors in a natural place, for sure we have to be much more prudent than ever. And sometimes the laws for the events that are for cities, they are not applied for a greenfields event, for an outdoor festival that is not in an urban setting. And working with universities has been very important for us, for the gaps, for these gray areas where there is no law, or if there is a law, it's a restrictive law. But from the moment that we are working with universities, this creates a new field of development. The last project that we are ongoing is we are introducing the hemp blocks. That is a technology that has been developed in Portugal to do some construction in a place that it's not allowed to have permanent construction. But because this hemp block has all the regulations and is extremely incredible in terms of thermic, in terms of fire, and in terms of acoustics, we are working with the university and the lawmakers, the Portuguese Environmental Agency, they are allowing us to build using that material. So it's just a good example on how to validate the projects with the institutions.
Absolutely. Just to give an example on that, as far as a collaboration with universities, Massive Attack collaborated with Tyndall Centre for Climate Change Research to look at what is the impact of and what would be a super low carbon gig, essentially. And that gave so much more weight than us doing it just from within the industry ourselves, and alerted then the DCMS, who started to look at should we have licensing conditions for events, for example. So it really does help to add weight. And from Remedies' perspective, or your perspective generally, have you got obstacles in Europe or the territories you work in from a legislative perspective that we could help with?
Yeah, we work in 8 demo sites all across the Mediterranean. Basically, some are expected. You know, if you try something new and test it and so on, it's something that it's because if you work with the communities, they always, you know, pay effort to protect. You know, if they're unsure, then it's you have to clarify and so on. This is why in the project, or usually you work with partners who have this experience already. This helps a lot. You know, no one just came and said, "Hey, I have a great idea. I want to be in a project now." It has to be like all laid down, and it's easier. So also, exit is like in more than 100 projects, for example. But yeah, still, there are still options that you manage during that. For example, it was that we have to change the festival, you know, from sea dance in Montenegro to here. There's also some that was not expected, so it's more or less. But in terms of these laws that are, you know, related to the plastics, microplastics, and so on, we work with with countries also and demo sites, 3 demo sites outside EU. So it's totally different logic there also. So it's something that we are managing, but still it's
You've got
takes
lots
time.
of territories to cover there.
Yeah.
And Lyke, you've worked a lot in Northern Europe especially, and I know that there is, for instance, the Plastics Directive, and you've done a lot of work with festivals on that subject. So can you just speak a bit to that?
Yes, so we had an initiative, it's called Plastic Promise in the Netherlands, and it was actually before the regulations, the sub-regulations in the Netherlands from the European goals. So in the Netherlands, you need to have a circular system for your cups, and that means or you use reusables, you take them in again, or you use PET disposables, but you have to take them in and recycle them into PET again. So this is, I think, a little bit different than some other countries, but still the most sustainable option is reusable, because after 5 times reusing, it's already more sustainable, and you can reuse them many more times than 5. So.
And to
Both systems take a lot of effort. So it's not the PET system is easier, because to have all PET cups handed in, you also need a very good system.
Yeah. And so we've talked a lot about the packaging side of things. I was thinking it's interesting to then think about what's in the packaging as well, because we've seen, so I think first of all, just to comment on it, it's fantastic that you're including biodiversity and water in addition to the carbon impact, because they often get forgotten because it's very easy to measure carbon, but water appears to be very small, and the biodiversity might not necessarily get a look in that system. But when you do look at carbon, we've found that up to 30-40% of an event's impact could be the food and drinks, if you take that into account. And then obviously transport is another significant element. So to all of the festivals, what kind of actions or attitude changes have you seen over the years in relation to food and drink in particular?
Well, I think people are more aware about the food impact, which is good. I think there will be for sure a trend towards the more plant-based thing, which I find very important as well. Even though sometimes the food that is served in festivals, due to the fact that the food vendors, they need to optimize their investment, sometimes is a bit of the vegan fast food kind of thing, and not always very nutritive. It's lots of starch, lots of insulin, sugar spikes, and not always the most important greeny kind of food. And this is something that I think all the festivals, they need to address, which has to be nutritive as well, because people need to be hydrated on that level. And so for sure, this is one of the things that for sure festivals need to do. And in terms of drinks, what we've been doing, but I think it's something that needs to be done worldwide, is to try to associate with the ethical brands or with fair trade kind of brands that can serve drinks that are different than the big brands. I know that for many festivals it's very difficult, because some of these more, let's say, brands, they are also the sponsors of the event, but there is a space for small brands to be integrated and included on the offer that we can do to our audience. On our side, we only work with ethicals and fair trade brands and independent ones, which I find amazing. And in the last years, the amount of brands going on and they are growing a lot, and festivals are an incredible ground for these brands to develop.
It's a great diversity then as well for people who come to the event.
Yeah.
So Ida or Lyke, have you got any comments, examples in that respect in relation to food and drink?
I think one about drinks, it's about water. A lot of festivals sell branded water. And it's just good to know that there are also some festivals like Paradise City in Belgium, but also Into the Great Wide Open in the Netherlands, who sell filtered tap water. And I think that's something, some people think like, no, you cannot sell this tap water because it's just like this line you have to cross. But I think you definitely can do that, because having that water at a festival costs money, like the infrastructure, cooling, energy, everything, but it will be a less impact in the environment. So that's just an idea.
Nice. And so we've talked about a few pilots that have happened on the festivals. Like how do you then take it from a pilot in a festival situation to something that could change things on a systemic or wider level? Ida, I'm going to start with you.
The green exit activities, as I said, during the festival days, the responsible collecting, the packaging activities, mainly, I'm talking about that. They started as a pilot. It was just 1 year, but you could see it wasn't a pilot anymore. So we definitely go it. So it is happening next year, definitely. And this is why I said it's growing. That is activity that is really work out. And now that we are talking about Remedies project, we also in another Horizon project, Inspire, which is similar to Remedies, and some other solutions will be developed, and we are hoping that from the pilot and from the demo site, we will move to the completely use those solutions in the future. So yes, we are looking forward, and I think it's not just presenting and being, it's not testing it, it's really presenting it and get a feel from our audience and staff and artists, performers during the festivals. So we're looking forward to use those solutions, especially if we are part, as in the Remedies project, of creating it from the formula, from scratch, to actually use it as a beer cup.
So it's
one day.
proving that it works and then
Yes.
getting on with it. I think that's an important point as well, that if you're talking about making things more sustainable, it can't be worse or more difficult. It needs to be better, ideally, than the alternative. And that's what we're all about. So I'm going to just give an opportunity for any cues, any questions from the crowd. Yeah, at the front here. Have we got a mic? Or yeah, here's a mic.
Okay, so I know like all these festivals that are like sustainable driven are making like changes on the system and implementing this circularity or the circular model. What is the financial, in a financial aspect or level, what is the impact? Because obviously, as Lyke said, all of these implementation, all these processes, they have costs, like direct costs to the festival production and obviously to the finance side of it. And how do you see, like, do you think that there will be a point of, you know, overlay or intersection where there's like this balance? Because I know at the moment this is a big challenge for festivals to implement all these processes, like supporting and like becoming green. What is the financial aspect, and how do you see that this will grow, and where will that get in the future in a finance side of the festivals?
I can on our behalf. I can tell you that we spend more money in sustainability than on program, and this is our commitment. But it's also about in what kind of festival do the promoters want to do, and our festival is pretty much based on sustainability and on empowering individuals and communities via arts, via culture, and via sustainability. It's not only about showcasing, for instance, a compost toilet that we developed that was inspired by many travels and eco-villages, etc. It's also very important that we have a space that people can learn how to do that. And we have this space called the Spaceship Earth. But also, when we are talking about the hemp bricks, we also created a Boomland school where people can go there to learn every September about using these kind of technologies. So it's kind of a commitment. It depends on what kind of event we want to do. And I think these days, and especially with the new generations, people are more aware They are more aware about food. They drink less alcohol. They are more aware about psychedelics, for instance. They are more aware about spiritual and well-being. And the festivals play a huge role about that. And sustainability is for sure one of the most important. And I think that if the promoters want to really please the old crowds and the young crowds with meaningful experience, sustainability must be an investment on a long term.
Mm-hmm. And Lyke?
Yes, I totally agree, Artur, with you. But also, I think for the organizations who are not that committed but really want to do something, I think if you switch to more plant-based, it doesn't cost you money. If you reduce your energy, it will save you money. So I understand there are some costs you have to make, but there are some choices you can make, and it doesn't cost a lot, or maybe not even.
Yeah.
And also, I think mobility, you can do a lot of things with communication. So that just implementing this in your communication strategy and influences your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly on both of those. And then there are also more sponsors that are positive organizations. So, for example, we had Ecotricity sponsored Massive Attacks show on the Downs last August, and as a result, that covered the cost of all of the batteries for the site. There was another organization that provided electric buses, any of the carbon analysis, that was all covered thanks to the sponsors' commitments, and that those organizations were actually for sustainable businesses as well. And there's a fantastic model with Boom where there isn't sponsorship, but if there is sponsorship, there are companies that are aligned and that could help that. The other element is the EU funding, which Lyke touched upon for the SOS group, and that's for, I suppose, the framework that helps to assess events. But then there's also EU funding for doing certain initiatives within events as well. Ida?
Yeah, I mean, I would really recommend any event organization that to look after the projects like this and partnership like this, and it really can help with this initial investment, as what you mentioned is also like to start with an energy saving or reusable system for the cups and foodland packaging and different things. You need to start somewhere. You need some funds, and it's not easy. Yes, festivals to get the sponsorship for the green activities, sometimes it's very difficult, and so we have to rely on projects like this. We get, with partners' help, it's not financial maybe help, but it's also like in what we have. We share and we combine people, materials, communication practices, and so on, some experiences and physical innovations that they already have in use for the other systems. And yes, and yeah, that I think that's main idea here, to say that go for this EU funding. It is hard to get a supplication of 300 pages done in a certain time and all this.
I prefer the sponsorship.
It is very interesting. Because we have to collaborate in ecology, I think, and Artur would agree with me, with different sectors, and especially scientists and ecologists and those people who know and can professionally prove that, okay, this solution is right, and it's controlled and safe and everything, and so you can use it and provide it for the festival goers.
And Uroš, did you want to add something there? I saw your hand.
Yeah.
Or we'll go to Lyke.
Yeah, just, I'm from public sector. You're paying me. This is why what can do also from the project, and this is scientists what do. We are institution of knowledge, and this knowledge we are sharing with you for free. For example, we have last year workshops. Do it yourself. It's not that difficult, right? You not have to read articles, but scientists can also come to you through the festivals and do it yourself. This is like doing picnic at home with, now you can buy really everything that you have in the festival at your place, but This is something we also want to educate, and this is something that scientists can also be stimulating these changes. So quite simple, use your common sense. Or if you have some complicated question, we can clarify it. But more or less, this is something that it's maybe missing from their parts, but also do it yourself. Everyone can contribute it because it's a society event, certain event. We're not sitting at home and listening to the music. It's like engagement. So this is what I want to add from that perspective.
Excellent. And Lyke?
Yes, I also wanted to share my experience to be front runner when I was working with IDT and they were like really front running in the sustainability. It was also much easier to attract funds from brands, from cities, from everywhere. And I think later digital took that role. And I also know a part of their budget for sustainability was because they are front runner. So I think if you can choose and you're up to that, it also attracts money.
Yeah.
Excellent. Have we got time for one more question? I don't know. Well, go on. Is there? Yeah, so great. Go for it.
I don't think, the mic is working, okay. Interested in the panel's perspectives on carbon offsets. I haven't heard it mentioned today, but obviously that's the easy way of doing things and being sustainable, so I'm really interested in your perspectives.
Can I start on that? So we've, for the 20 years we were operating, we've never been recommending offsets at all, only reductions. And then about 5 years ago came to understand that even if we stopped all emissions now, we still have to remove carbon from the atmosphere. So we're still 100% all for reduction, first and foremost, and taking action first and foremost, because that has to happen. But then to achieve net zero, you still have to remove carbon from the atmosphere. So now we're very precise about the difference between offset and removal, because offset includes avoiding emissions, which means whatever you've emitted could still be in the atmosphere, whereas removals means you actually draw it out of the atmosphere. And then the question is, how quickly does it come out and how long does it stay in its new format? So for instance, if you've done direct air capture into rock, it's immediate and it's a very long-lasting situation. If you plant trees, it could be 50 years, and then depending on where you plant it, it could be that goes back into the carbon cycle within a certain period of time. So I think there's a place for it, but it's not the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way that we look at it is carbon offset came as a, let's say, an economical unit of measure so that the system could keep on polluting. That's the reality. But at the same time, it was important for all of us as society to see ways to try to reduce the footprint. The way that we deal with it is to look at the three ways of footprint: the carbon, the ecological, and the water footprint. And we cannot look at nature only on a single dimension. We have to look at it as a whole. And that's the way to look at it. In terms of carbon specifically, this year we are working with this blue carbon sequestration, which is basically starting to work with the ocean and starting to work with the rivers, so that we can try to create ways that our impact in terms of carbon can be in a way mitigated or can be in a way used on different locations that are not only about the trees or about the soil, because we can also work with the soil if we look at the footprint of the nature, the ecological footprint, but this we do with our own land. And this, especially the biological footprint in terms of biodiversity and the water footprint, many people don't regard it as important, but they are ultra important on this conversation. So I would say carbon is the rule, but we should look at it as a whole. And the water and the biodiversity, it's very important on the whole equation.
Absolutely. So I think we are out of time now. I'm just going to actually give everyone a chance to give their one takeaway to the audience. If you wanted each member of the audience to take one action, either for themselves or for their event, what would it be, Artur? Choose one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the rule of permaculture: work with nature, never against.
Well,
Ida?
well, we can do this only together. So everyone, all together.
Nice. Uroš?
Your Remedies, please join our movement.
And Lyke?
Stay moving. Don't.
Don't get stagnant. That's a dance floor
Yeah.
reference for sure.
Yeah.
Talking of which, there's a party coming up soon, our final party. So I'm going to say thank you so much to the panel. Thank you, Lyke, for joining us from Amsterdam. And thank you all for listening.
Guys, well, I think that brings the first ever bridge to an absolutely perfect close. I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of Dusan, myself, the bridge board, all of our speakers, all of our guests, everyone, of course, our marketing team, production. It takes a village to put these things on, and I don't think anyone really understands how much work goes on behind the scenes and how many people are involved, but I think, it's been a really spectacular few days for connection, new relationships forged. The content of the sessions has been absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to you all for coming, for your support. I hope to see all of you at Sea Star Festival from tonight down on the beach for a right old tear-up party. And we're doing this to celebrate our late sister Ivana, so thank you everyone. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, guys. Sorry, one last thing. Just to thank Ida and Remedies for their support of Bridge, and Uroš, of course. Without our partners like Remedies, TechSpace, HID, and Zap, we could not do these events. So thank you once again to our partners and sponsors.